Okay.
Okay.
All right, great.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
say that again, David.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought I heard your voice. My apologies.
I think
That
Tanya
was
said
me.
something.
That was me. Mwahaha.
Sorry. Sorry, Tanya. All right. Thank you guys, everyone out there in YouTube land for being patient while we get fix some technical difficulties that we were having. I know that many of you have said that it stopped pretty early on, so Jay is prepared to sort of start from the beginning. So it's back to you, Jay.
So just
Oh,
as
Carol,
a,
I'm sorry, back to you. Wait, Carol, where are you? I can't see.
here
Okay,
I
got
am.
you. All right.
Just as a preface, the reason why Jay is here is because board members had some questions about procedure and dealing with the board and agenda items, and when the board is required to vote and or not vote. And so Jay is here just to clarify the advice of school boards for the whole board, so that just in general terms, so that it's clear. And if there's any further discussion, it should be an executive session. This is not to discuss any particular contract or matter. It's simply to provide the general advice that school board shared with different board members. Okay.
Thank you.
Carol.
Thank
So
you, Carol. Do we want to give people time to get into the new whatever we created?
No, Steve said we're good to go.
Okay, because some people I think aren't able to get, I'm getting texts that they don't know where the meeting is. They can see us, but they can't hear us. I think they're maybe in the old meeting. Is this new meeting labeled? Does it say Board of Ed meeting or?
Steve, did you start? You didn't start anything, Reynolds. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, trustees. I'm looking at it live. It's still spinning. It's on the old feed. It's now disconnected. It was just disconnected, so we'll see if it tries again, but we are not live.
Okay. Let's hold again.
So is there a way to, can somebody put, I don't know, Laser or Steve, if you could put in the old feed, let people know where to go, or how do we, what are we gonna do?
It feels like 6 long minutes.
So basically it goes live at 8, Antoinette?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm just hearing that people just need to refresh in order to get back on. Is that true, Steve, that they just need to refresh their YouTube link?
Yeah, it should still be the same link, just when it goes live. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of refreshing when it
So
gets
I'm
done.
assuming that they may still not be able to hear us. So could anybody reach out to any of the community members on YouTube just to say, to direct them to refresh and to let them know that it'll probably be ready. It'll be ready at 8.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine. It's just spinning.
Okay. And so and people know that they need to refresh? Oh, this is delayed a little bit. I said that like like 30 seconds ago. Okay. All right.
I just got it. Sorry, Antoinette, I don't want to interrupt you again. I just want to let everyone know. I just got a text that the issue isn't refreshing. It's that the old feed, I guess, has the date on it of the meeting. So that's where people are going. And the new feed, I don't know what it has on it. Oh, okay.
Yes, Steve. I guess Tracy was saying because the old feed, if that's correct, still has the date on it, people are going there and missing, I guess, the new link that you have available. Okay. So I'm not sure who has volume that is allowing for us to hear. Sounds like sirens of some sort, but I am totally delayed.
I see 36 people in, so I'm assuming that they're in.
Okay. So Steve, is it just that I hear a delay in what I'm saying? So is it just that maybe somebody is playing? I'm not. Okay, I don't have YouTube on anything in my house at all. So, okay. Dr. Reynolds, I saw your hand.
Thank you. So we are currently live. People are watching what we're doing now. There is always about a 10-second lag between what we say and what's broadcast on YouTube.
Okay, I just usually don't hear it. And oh, okay. All right. All right. So, Carol, it's back to you.
Okay. I just wanted to, again, introduce Jay Verona, who is head counsel at New York State School Board Association. Several board members had questions for school boards, and Jay is the deputy executive director, and I thought that it would be good for him to come in and answer any questions that the board, any general questions that the board had concerning Robert's rules, or when a board is required to vote something in public. We're not here to discuss any personnel matter or any specific contract. That would be for executive session. It's just simply to understand the general, give a general overview. All right, and if there are additional questions, then Jay has limited time, but he might be able to come into executive session for that as well.
Thank you, Carol. So my understanding of what some of the questions were, and again, honestly, folks, you know, we're a membership organization that's here to support your school district in every way we can, and we're not taking any opinion one way or the other on any issues that you're facing. And quite frankly, They're none of my business and our association's business. But the question that I was asked to just talk about is, what matters have to be voted on by the school board. So anytime you're going to establish a contract, the board would have to, vote in some affirmative way to secure that contract. If a contract has been entered into and it is potentially going to lapse, there would not necessarily under the law be a requirement to vote on it, unless, of course, within that contract, there were provisions that would require the board to take affirmative action. The other thing that I was asked to comment on is kind of a Robert's Rules of Order question, which really is it's the parliamentary laws that you folks have taken on as a district. And New York State law doesn't require you to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, but you have, 98% of the districts have, so you're in good company. But basically what it allows board members to do is to make motions. If those motions are seconded, then there would be discussion and we're off to the races. I think the question that perhaps some clarity was requested for me to make was, what is the ability of board members to make motions, receive seconds, and have a discussion about items that have already been considered by the board? So under Robert's Rules of Order, certainly if something is pertinent for discussion, the board would have it in front of it. If someone makes that motion, it would be seconded. But once the board makes a decision, good, bad, or indifferent, the only way that could properly come before the board again is if somebody were to make a motion to have something reconsidered. In this particular instance, the president would have the authority to decide whether certain matters should be permitted to come before the board a second time if they were asked and answered. And certainly, even if the president, in her judgment or his judgment, whatever the case may be, decides decides to allow something to come up again, certainly a board member might still not be happy about that and might want the matter to be dealt with yet again. And I'm sure you can appreciate, regardless of what specific result anyone listening in tonight or anyone on this board wants in any particular matter, you couldn't have rules of decorum that make any sense at all if every single time something was lost at the table, members would have the entitlement and authority to bring it back multiple times. So it would mean that every single thing that the board does would be ripe for discussion and rediscussion and discussion again, at which point you would have havoc. So it doesn't mean the board can't discuss something 33 times, but if the majority of the board chooses not to do so under Robert's Rules of Order, there is no obligation that that be done. My understanding of those are two questions I was asked to clarify. I don't know, Carol, how you want to proceed beyond that, but those are the two questions I was asked to comment on.
Jay, if you could just clarify, because I'm sure it'll, part of the questioning had to do with where there is no actual vote on an item, then there would not be reconsideration of that vote, correct?
Right, because nothing was actually done to reconsider. That's correct. Yes. Right. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Carol, please.
No, that was just to clarify that, because I think some board members had some questions about that as well.
Yeah, because under Robert's Rules of Order, and I probably was not as clear with my language, so thank you for that question, because reconsideration would imply, of course, that we're reconsidering the efficacy, the utility of something that we have decided to do, as opposed to reconsidering something that we decided not to do. So in other words, let's say there was no vote. Something failed for lack of a majority, right? Then there's no reconsideration of that because we never took action. And if we had to take action, that could be problematic. But that gets back to the first question that I was talking about, that certain things don't require board action. Terry, I'm sorry. Terry, I think you're muted though.
Yes, so thank you, Jay. Thank you for coming. I didn't know you made house calls all these years. So
Hey, it's soon. Everybody's a house call, right?
okay. So I guess I'm confused because I certainly will plead guilty to being certainly one of the board members asking these questions. And what I did indeed do is I happen to not know her personally, but I've been in touch with Miss McTeague, who is the staff counsel
Right.
for NYSBA. And you said, and when you were just sharing with us, you said some things don't need to be voted on. So I'm going to read directly to you, and I sent this to all of my colleagues, what Ms. McTeague said to me.
Right.
If I wasn't clear, I am sorry. Discussions relating to personnel matters, such as renewing or not renewing contracts, can be done in executive session. However, the actual vote has to be done in a public session. And then she goes on to say some other things unrelated to that. So that is an inconsistency with what you said to us.
Yeah, so I think there's a little bit of lack of clarity. Shub McTague works for me. She's one of our counsels here, and I talked to her this evening. I think that her language could have been a little bit more precise. I think what she's saying to you is if something needs to be voted on, right, it can't be voted on necessarily in executive session. You know this as a board member for many years, that the only thing that we can vote on in executive session is preferring charges against a tenured teacher or administrator. That's the only matter. So the question really becomes, does the specific matter in question require a vote? Because if it does, you're absolutely right, Terry. It has to be done in public. But what you were reading from what she said, and interpreting from what she said, is the assumption that that means the thing has to be voted on. There's certain contracts that don't have to be voted on if we're not taking action. For example, if you have a contract that requires a renewal, a decision one way or the other, that would have to go into a public session. Okay. If, however, the contract has a specific expiration date, and when it lapses, that's the end of it, the board certainly could decide one way or the other to renew or to not renew. And again, I have no dog in the fight as to what's right or wrong. I know nothing about these circumstances, but in that instance, there would not be the requirement to have a vote.
So if I could just quickly follow up. So if it has an expiration date, the board could decide to renew it or not to renew it, to vote to renew it or not to vote to renew it, I guess, if I heard you correctly. So just to keep things quick and simple, where does it say that? Is it in the New York State statutes? Is it in the New York State School Board Association statutes? I've heard you say it. I've heard Carol say it. I said this before to Larry. He got a chuckle out of it. I'm not from Missouri, but I like to say I'm from Missouri. You got to show me.
Yeah.
Where is that? Where does it say that?
So with respect to the issue of board members being able to bring things up, again, that's part of Robert's Rules of Order, but that's not the question you're asking. The question
Correct.
You're asking is where would it say that we need to renew things? And it really would be in the contours of the contract in question. Because think about it, if something has an expiration date, I can decide to let it lapse. I have no obligation to continue it unless the contract has a specific provision in it that says that I have to take affirmative action one way or the other, to say yes or to say no. But if the contract is silent and doesn't say anything, then we're utilizing really, Terry, the elements of contract law 101, really, which is what is the understanding of the parties when they've entered into a contract. And if the parties have understood that something needs to be decided one way or the other at the end of a contract, you are 100% right. There would have to be a vote. And that would be consistent with the way you were reading Shub McTague's memo. But if the contract is silent, then at the end of that contract, under contract law, it would just lapse. Is that responsive to your question?
I'll just say this follow-up quickly and let my other colleagues speak. So it sounds like there's a bit of ambiguity here, and I would imagine, and I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that case law would kind of fill in those blanks.
Case law does help us when there's ambiguity, but to be honest, Terry, and again, I want you to be very clear here. I don't even really know the parameters of what we're discussing, so I have absolutely no dog in this fight. But what I'm saying is, case law would help us interpret what the board's responsibilities are if there's ambiguity in what the choices are. If I have a choice to let something lapse because the contract does not provide me with the affirmative obligation to do something, right? I can just let it lapse. Then there's no vote that would be required in that instance. Does that mean the board couldn't vote? Of course not. The board could vote. The board could do anything it wants in that instance. But I think your question was, are we obligated to? And I don't believe that one would be obligated to. Now, if the contract requires that there be an affirmative vote to do something with that contract, then you are 100% right. Then that has to be done in public.
Okay, Antoinette, if you just would allow me to just ask this. Time permitting, Jay, I know we kept you a little bit longer than we probably anticipated because of these technical difficulties, but I would like to invite you into our executive session because I do have some specific questions that are probably not appropriate for open session.
Okay. And I'd be happy to do that, Terry. I have a call that I have to get on at 8:45, but if we can work within that time frame, I'm happy to join you.
Thank you.
All right. Does David?
Okay. In the event, in theory, if the board takes a closed session consensus to distribute a document, say, for example, does that count as a board action? And should it have been done in open session or not?
I apologize, David. I missed the first part of what you said. Could you repeat that? I apologize.
If the board takes a closed session consensus to distribute a document, does that count as a board action and should it be open session?
I'm not.
I would just interject that I think that, David, that might be a question that if Jay is going to join us in executive session, perhaps to ask it then so you can give him more specifics about what you're asking.
Yeah,
All right, I'll wait.
And thank you, Carol, because David, honestly, I would never want to be evasive. I didn't understand the question, so I apologize.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions here? Okay, Carol, did you want to add anything yourself?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, so give me 1 second. That was it. We are actually now ready to go into executive session. So can I get a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye. Any opposed?
Hold on, don't we need to cite the
have a
reason?
purpose.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. We're good. I apologize. Yes, we're motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person being considered for board action this evening.
So moved again.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we're going into executive session. Great. I'm putting some in the waiting room. Okay. Monday at 5 p.m. Okay, Dr. Chase, I believe Ivy sent a couple of questions to you.
There are questions from a few members of the community. There are some that are for obviously the administration, and there are others that should be answered by the board.
Yes.
Before you continue, Mr. Williams has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Terry.
Thank you. The folks on the YouTube channel cannot hear us. Oh, wait, somebody just said the audio is on. Okay, never mind. We had a few messages that said they couldn't hear.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Okay. Duchess, you have the email Ivy sent?
I have the email Ivy sent.
Okay.
First of all, community, thank you for your questions. The administration will answer questions that are relevant to the administration. I don't know how the board wishes to handle the questions that are relevant to the board. I can read them out and they can answer them as appropriate because they were all sent to me and none of them were blocked. All right, so there's a question from Sarah Lazari on reopening. And the question asks, what is the status of the ventilation repairs at all schools? And are we in good shape for the reopening target date of 10/5? Ms. Lazari, I can give you a little bit of an overview of where we are with all of our schools. There is a target anticipation date of 10/5, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that during my superintendent's presentation as well. But just to answer your question, Leah Jackson, we're currently installing 14 exhaust fans that we just received, and it is anticipated that this will take about a week in which to install. Once complete, EnviroScience will come in and assess the air exchange. So we're waiting for the pneumatics contractor to assess ventilation controls, and we anticipate that this will occur probably at the end of the month. So that depends on the assessment and what actually needs to be done. At Highview School, once they finish Leah Jackson, the contractor will then move on to Highview and install the 5 exhaust fans that we just received. It is anticipated that this will take about 3 days. And once complete, EnviroScience will come in and assess the air exchange. And we are waiting on the pneumatics contractor to assess ventilation controls at Highview as well. And we anticipate this to occur at the end of the month. And again, that depends on what else might need to be done, right? At Woodlands Middle High School, once to Woodlands Middle High School, the contractor will then install 2 exhaust fans. We just received those fans as well. And it is anticipated that that's going to take about 1 day. Once completed, and we told the community that we will not open our buildings until EnviroScience gives us the thumbs up. They have been a reliable source in letting us know if the ventilation is up to par and if it's of standard, and to make sure that it is of high standard for our students. I want to make sure that it is of high standard. Once complete, like I said, EnviroScience will come in, they'll do their assessment of the air exchange. We are waiting on the pneumatic contractor also to assess ventilation controls. And we anticipate that this will be done by the end of the month. As it relates to R.J. Bailey Elementary School, R.J. Bailey Elementary School, just want the community to know that the asbestos abatement was completed August 21st. We just received the final asbestos monitoring report. And since the abatement was completed, we have had the HVAC contractor back in to assess both fan rooms. One fan room goes into the auditorium, and it has been determined that this cannot be made operational and the entire unit has to be replaced. The second fan room goes into the gym area. This contained 2 units. Both can be made operational by replacing the motors. So far to date, we have not received an estimate for neither. An electrician was contacted to provide an estimate to run new wiring for the new motor units, for the new motor and units in the fan room that are much needed. So we're waiting on the duct cleaning, which must be completed prior to turning on the fans. We will continue to open up all fans throughout the building. Once we complete with that work, as we said, EnviroScience will come in to do an assessment of the air exchange. That is very, very important to us. And we're waiting for the pneumatics contractor to assess the ventilation controls. And again, we believe that work will be done by the end of the month. Ms. Lazari also asked about the mansion status. Her question is, what is the most recent cost estimate to repair the mansion? And does that take into account the report from EnviroScience? Is it worth repairing the administration building when our school buildings with children in them need so many repairs and money is tight? So per the building condition survey, the BCS, the total cost to repair the mansion is about $10,479,380. And that's per the most recent BCS. Last school year, the board approved $1,586,370 to make repairs to the mansion. Per the BBS contractor, Fred Seba, on September 9th, the costs to address the ventilation issues based on the BCS is about $2,022,500. And that includes the following. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a list, Ms. Lazari. The replacement, replace the remove exhaust fan in the bathroom that's adjacent to the facilities director's office. That's about $7,500. To provide mechanical fresh air and relief for all pre-K students occupied areas. That's the area where the swimming pool used to be. That also includes the OTPT area. To replace AC, to replace windows, AC units, split AC units, that's about $400,000. To provide medical exhaust for the pre-K bathroom areas, there are 2 of them, that's about $75,000. To provide HVAC in the STEAM director's office, that's about $40,000. And to provide mechanical fresh air for all spaces throughout the building, we assume about 30 additional spaces, that's $1,500,000. So we're waiting on estimates to remediate the mold and the VOCs per EnviroScience report. That report is available for public consumption. And so we're waiting for estimates to remediate those major concerns in the mansion. Ms. Lazari's question asked about in-person meetings. This is not blocked out, so I'm assuming that it's okay to read it out publicly.
No,
So you don't want.
Well, no, not to. I thought that, I guess I think that might, fall under the board.
can I, before you answer, Antoinette,
Sorry, Tracy?
before you answer, when you were answering Ms. Lazari's question, her first question about the reopening, I didn't hear an update on the ECP building, the main building. I know that we moved various classes from the mansion over to Lee F. Jackson, and you answered that, but what about that main building and the ventilation there?
So, Ms. Maris, with all due respect, I just want to finish answering Ms. Lazari's before we go into other questions, because I think she has the floor. But I think I'm going to address your question in my superintendent's report. So, reference to ECP, yeah, I'm going to address it in the superintendent's report.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know how the board wants to handle questions 3, 4, 5. They're your questions.
Yeah.
Ms. Lazari?
Yeah. So in-person meetings, when will the board resume in-person meetings? I think right now the date is October 4th or 6th, Ivy? 4th. Okay, so October 4th is when virtual meetings are set to expire, but I will say that has happened multiple times throughout the school year so far. So it may continue to be extended, or it may, open up for live meetings, in-person meetings. But for now, we just pretty much wait on what the governor says in regards to having open meetings or live meetings. I'm sorry, and so that's what we really will continue to wait on. Like I said, I think at the beginning of our meeting, or before we went into executive session, we do have our policy stated on our website. It's policy 1510. You can also find it in board docs in regards to the the public being permitted to participate in our meetings, I'll read it. Public is permitted to participate by providing the board president or the district clerk with a written request in advance of our meeting. So again, Ivy and I established Monday at 5 o'clock so that we can get it well in advance in case some additional research or information needs to be found to be able to answer those questions. We went to Zoom, of course, because that's the only way that we could actually have meetings. And we have the process that we have posted on our website so that we can be efficient and move forward and really try to get our meetings addressed as efficient as possible. As we get those questions, Ivy will gather them questions. Ivy sort of puts it in what is administration realm, what is board realm, and then we get it in advance so that we can be prepared to respond to those questions. Again, that's why it's important if we can get it by that Monday at 5 p.m. And the superintendent will read what is permissible, will read or respond to what comments or questions are permissible during our public session portion of the meeting. Again, with limitations not having, not talking about any comments that are specific to personnel or students. And work sessions comments are supposed to be limited to agenda items only. And right now we are going to remain remotely at least through October 4th if we hear something else. The RFP search. Okay. This is asking questions about the RFP search firm. There was no executive session vote on the issue of sending out RFPs for a superintendent search firm, nor is a vote required to do so. Once a decision is reached in connection with hiring a specific firm, that part is done in executive session through interviews, through us interviewing the firms. A vote to hire that will be held in open session. There was a petition that was sent, and we
Antoinette, we can't hear you.
That your audio is.
When you turn away, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not really moving. There was a petition that was sent, and that correspondent was acknowledged. All right, Dr. Chase, I believe.
I'm going to read Chris.
To you.
I'm going to read Chris Valens' questions so that the community can hear the questions and then provide the answers. Regarding opening of schools, please provide an update on repairs and replacement to ventilation systems for each school as per both the building condition survey and COVID-19 mitigation measures, listing steps taken and what remains to be done for each building. What is the probability of each building to be ready for October 5th in-person education? Ms. Valen, I think I answered that question previously. If not, I'm going to be sharing more in my superintendent's update. So if something that I missed when I answered Ms. Lozari's question, you'll probably hear it in my superintendent's update. You did ask if we're going to be ready for the October 5th in person. We're going to do all that we can, but I'm going to reiterate again to the community and to everyone that if we're not ready, we're not going to open. I'm not going to put students in a situation where the district is liable or the district knows that the ventilation is not necessarily of the right standard, the correct standard under COVID, and then have children and staff in these buildings. It would be irresponsible on my part, and I'm not going to co-sign that. You did ask also too, your second question, regarding the hybrid model of learning, which is slated to begin in October. Will classes be live streamed for those students who are at home, or will they receive taped instruction, or will it be assigned-based learning? If live stream is the plan, do we have adequate bandwidth in place at each school, and will it be traffic tested beforehand? What equipment will be used to live stream classes? Will there be stand-up or roving cameras trained on the teacher, or will we rely on the laptop cameras and static teachers? So upon our opening of our hybrid model, Ms. Fallon, classes will be live streamed for students who receive remote instruction. And we are currently traffic testing our bandwidth via full remote instruction, really as we speak. To date, it is our intent to use stationary cameras in the classrooms along with laptop cameras, which will require teachers to manually move the devices. I'm also going to add, just today we met as an administrative group, and Mr. Ramirez, who is the technology director, is also looking at, another type of camera that can possibly use for this live streaming. Number 3, Ms. Fallon's question continues. Regarding the small group and extra help instruction periods, could instructors proactively schedule time with students,
Right.
or will they rely on students to reach out for help? Yep, teachers may proactively schedule time with students during small group and extra help times. Any teacher who sees that a child may be falling behind or might need a little bit of extra help, and there may be children who might be reluctant to ask for that extra help, those teachers will definitely reach out to those students. It's a great question. If virtual learning continues for longer than planned, or we need to enter a new period of virtual learning due to increased positive cases, will each school reconsider the 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock model? Contrary to what we heard earlier this summer, the time allotted to learning is missing more than one period that would normally be allotted for lunch/recess. I understand some student groups will have difficulty focusing on computer-based instruction for long periods of time, but at some point, we need to build back into the schedule for the older students, at least, allowing for transition to class/movement time so kids aren't static all day. Great question. If virtual learning continues for longer than planned, or we need to enter a new period of virtual learning due to increased positive cases, and it appears that the cases are beginning to increase in Westchester County, the district will consider the 10 to 2 o'clock daily direct instructional time frame. That is something that we will definitely evaluate, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The next question, regarding board actions, D3, board goals. Let's see. I believe the question is for the board, and I think number 6 question, also, when will GSCSD backgrounds be available for student use? I'm going to go ahead and answer Ms. Fallon's question about the backgrounds, and the board can take question number 5. So the backgrounds are so ready to go. In fact, I modeled them just the other day with the staff. Unfortunately, we're waiting for Google to provide the platform for which we can prepare those backgrounds for our students. They told us that it would happen over the weekend, that there would be enhancements so that we could upload those backgrounds and they'll be available. That hasn't happened. So we're just waiting for Google to get their act together, because we're ready to showcase our virtual backgrounds. All right, there's a question for the board as it relates to their own goals from Chris Fallon.
Okay.
And
So
before you answer the board question, I had a question related to Ms. Fallon's question that kind of combines her second question regarding hybrid and the fourth question regarding, virtual learning. So Dr. Chase, do you want to answer that now? And I can ask you it now?
Well, because if this was a live meeting, Chris would have the floor and this would be her time. So if we can just finish this question and then I'll answer your question.
Okay, great.
After Chris,
Yeah.
that's going to be respectful of the community member.
Terry, I see your hand is up.
Only, excuse me, Dr. Chase echoed my sentiments exactly. Let's be respectful of the community and let their questions be answered.
Thank you, Terry. Okay. All right. So regarding board action item D3, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to. I have two devices here. Okay. So regarding board action item D3, board goals, focus area 2, BOE lists as a proposed goal for the 2020-2021 school year the desire to communicate effectively with stakeholders and to engage community stakeholders and parents through virtual town halls. However, BOE currently does not allow the same stakeholders and parents to effectively communicate in meetings by allowing live public comments, which would provide the opportunity for follow-up questions, or by allowing questions after the submission deadline. So when a revised agenda is published, there is no opportunity to query. The BOE had also, the Board of Education also seems to miss their goal of effective communication when topics which could be discussed in public session are covered privately in executive session. How does the BOE propose to meet this goal and resolve these issues which hinder effective communication and transparency? So we're actually going to approve those goals, the board goals, which is also the district goals. We're actually going to approve them tonight. Public comments can be allowed in. Okay, I'm sorry. Public comments can be allowed in general sessions, not work sessions where comments must be related to the agenda per our policy 1510. So as long as it does not specifically relate to specific personnel. I can give one quick example, just referring to the virtual town halls. That was something new for this year. I believe we had talked about it one time, trying to, with us being virtual and not being in, with having more opportunities to discuss, a variety of issues or a variety of programs or concerns in regards to our school district. It's something that I believe Dr. Chase and Tracy and I might talked about. I think I was trying to talk about possibly bringing back parent universities, and I believe Dr. Chase thought about this instead of parent universities, but town halls at each individual schools. So my whole, just to reiterate, we are trying to communicate. We just are we're communicating in a way by following our policy. We are going to hopefully eventually get up and running with our committees as well. That's an opportunity for our community to participate and hear their concerns and hear what information and things that each committees are discussing as well. And as far as items being discussed privately in executive sessions that are public, that does not happen. So that's that question. Next, similarly, if the BOE has as proposed a goal of meeting with parent groups throughout the district, how do they propose to proactively include parents in crucial decisions regarding the district? One suggestion might be to utilize the exchange. We agree. As mentioned in another part of the goals, for a simple survey as follows. Please rate how the district's doing in helping students meet their potential. And then you have your choices. A, poorly. B, could be better. C, average. D, room for improvement. E, all is well. Then a follow-up question could be, which of the following statements do you agree with? Some of that I cannot read. To make adjustments, we need to make major adjustments to our instructional model. We need to make minor adjustments to our instructional model as well. Or we need to make no changes. So again, any questions that are concerning specific leadership are not appropriate for community input. So that's how we respond to those questions. But I will say this, the thought exchange is something that we obviously can definitely use more to get direct feedback from our community. So I think that that will be something that we will use moving forward more often. Something else I wanted to say. Something else in there. I think that was it for that one. And Dr. Chase, I believe you went through Katie's questions.
No,
You skipped it. I thought you jumped past a question or something.
no.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Chase. Back to you.
The next set of questions come from Katie McGee.
Hold on, I have a question.
No question.
Yeah, I had a question about some of the information that Chris Vallon had asked, the 2 questions that she posed. So I wanted to ask.
But I
Tracy,
thought,
remember we said that we would wait until, the public gets to finish, stating their questions or having their questions responded to.
So in that case, I did misunderstand. It's my recollection, and perhaps I'm remembering this incorrectly, but in live meetings, when people are talking, usually they get their 4 minutes. The board can ask questions if it's a subject or a topic that they have additional questions about. But if that's not what everyone recalls, or if you don't want me to ask, I will wait. I will write my questions down.
I see 2 former board presidents shaking their heads differently.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
of
correct.
course,
No.
they're going to say that. Come on.
The way
but-
you're,
No,
the
no,
way
no,
you're not
that's
reading
fine, I
live
can
and
wait.
Wait,
I'll wait till
on,
the end.
hold on for a second. Terry is saying no, David, and we heard you, Terry, earlier. David, what were you saying?
I believe that the answer is that yes, board members are allowed to ask questions after people have spoken in public in meetings.
So like after an individual, like one individual went, they asked their
Person speaks,
questions.
you answer the question, and then the board can ask follow-ups.
I just don't want to have to come back when we're on a totally different subject. But if whatever your pleasure, if you'd like me to wait, I can wait. It's not a big deal.
We have always answered questions and had feedback to the people before, after they spoke, we could speak. I don't know where all of these new things are coming from.
Terry, are you saying something different? Because if you're saying something the same, let's just try to keep it moving.
I guarantee I'm not saying the same thing.
Okay.
What we have been doing is being consistently inconsistent. And so there you have it. We've been consistently inconsistent, and it's time to stop that.
I don't believe that's the case, but thank you for your comment. Tracy, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. So Chris had asked about the virtual learning, hold on, let me scroll back up. Question number 2 was about the hybrid model in live streaming. So I did have a question about that. I received the data from the survey that parents took, saying whether or not they would want to continue with remote learning or not. And my question is, after October 5th, hopefully everything will be great and we will get all the kids that want to return, the families that want to return their kids in the building. After we do that, the kids and the families who opt for virtual will no longer be 10 to 2 if the hybrid students that are in school are starting school at 8 or whatever time and staying until 3. So then will the students and the families who opted to be virtual be online from 8 to 3, or will they remain 10 to 2? And as Chris said, and I think the number 4 question, be then receiving some sort of videotape, or how is that expected to work? I need to know what the plan is for moving forward in October for the families that also opt to remain virtual. That was my question.
Dr. Reynolds, can you please answer that if you can?
Sure. Thank you very much. Through Dr. Chase, and through the board president. Yes, if we do continue to direct our instruction and come back into the hybrid model, that would allow teachers to teach during their regular times, during the regular bell schedule. As such, we have promised that it is our intent, again, I want to be very clear that that's the word that we're using, it's our intent to produce our instruction synchronously. So that means that the day for the students who are on home instruction, who are chosen to be virtual, would be extended for live synchronous instruction, which would be during the regular school day.
So the students would, just to recap, the students would log on at 8 at their normal time, or 9, 8, whatever, and then they would stay in the class. So like a, second grader would stay online from 8:30, 9 o'clock till 3?
So if I am an elementary school teacher and I am coming back in because I will have half of my cohort in with me,
Yeah.
I will be teaching beginning at the start of the day. Let's just use, for example, 9 o'clock. My teaching day will take place from 9 until 3:15 p.m. During that time, our regularly scheduled class activities will take place, with the exception, of course, of lunch and recess. So during that time, the recording devices, not recording, the video devices will be on.
Right.
I will be streaming, for lack of a better word, to my students, whether it's through Google Classroom, which is what we intend to use, and the students who are home will be at home watching live instruction at the same time for the same length of the day. Not from 10 until 2, from 9 until 3. We're using that as the example.
Okay, I guess, I know there's an education committee, so I don't know, and I'm not on it this year. I wanted to be on that committee, but I guess maybe you guys can explore that further, because I don't want to take up any more of the larger meeting time, but I am a little concerned just because I remember a few meetings ago, I don't know which meeting was in, but I remember hearing that when I expressed concerns about 10 to 2, being a shorter day, I remember hearing that online it's recommended that students don't remain on like the computer getting instruction longer than that period of time. But 9 to 3, I'm understanding that it won't be continuous instruction, but that seems like a really long time to just be logged in for any student, but especially young students. I'm
But
just
remember, Ms. Mears, remember that they're choosing not to come in for instruction during the instructional period. That's why they're going to be, for the lack of a better word, forced to receive instruction for that length of the day through that mode. Instruction is being provided to our students. They're in school for those hours, and if we want to have synchronous instruction, that it will have to take place for that length of the day.
Okay, I just hope that there can be some sort of varied options for parents. Like, I don't want students to be penalized because they have to come off, or they cannot sit in front of a computer for like 6, 7 straight hours. Like, that's a lot, but
okay,
I'll leave it alone. Thank you.
So I want to continue with Katie McGee. Before I go there with Katie McGee, and we're talking about live instruction, I just want to give the Greenburgh Central School District teachers a huge shout out for live instruction. And I say that because around the country, you will see that not all students are engaged in live instruction. You will find that there's work for children, might be printed worksheets that they have to print at home, or there's activities for them to do throughout the day. Our teachers are willing to do live instruction with our children, and I could not be more proud of them. Katie McGee's question, she asked about, will you have a decision? That's a board. The board might want to read that question out loud. I'm going to go to her first question, but she does have a preface at the beginning that is definitely board related. Her first question, that's appropriate for administration to read: was the asbestos abatement completed in the second fan room at R.J. Bailey School? If yes, what subsequent work has been done in those 2 fan rooms, and is it complete? If not complete, then when do you expect it to be completed? I believe Ms. Lazari asked that same question, and I believe that question was asked by someone else as well. But just Ms. McGee, the R.J. Bailey, the asbestos abatement was completed in August 21st to be exact. We just received the final asbestos monitoring reporting. And since the abatement was completed, we have had the HVAC contractor back in to assess both fan rooms, excuse me. One fan room goes to the auditorium directly, and it has been determined that this cannot be made operational and that the entire unit has to be replaced. The second fan room goes to the gymnasium, and this contained 2 units. Both can be made operational by replacing the motors, and to this date, up until this time, we have not received an estimate for neither. So an electrician was contracted to provide an estimate to run new wiring for the new motor and units in the fan rooms that are needed. And so we're waiting for the ductwork cleaning to be done, which must be completed before we can actually turn on the fans. And so when we continue to open up all fans throughout the buildings, and again, once this work is completed, Viral Science will come in to do their due diligence to make sure that the air quality is exceptional for our students and our staff. All right. The other question asked, did you get prices for HVAC work for the building exhaust system from the contractor? If yes, what further work has proceeded and is it completed yet? If not, when do you expect for it to be completed? Ms. McGee, we're still waiting for estimates on that, so stay tuned. Your third question, has the auditorium unit been replaced yet? And if not, when is it expected to be completed? We're still waiting for estimates similar to your prior question. And as soon as that happens, we will share with the community what we're doing. Question number 4. What is your plan for teaching the Bailey students if this work is not completed by October 5th? It's a great question. The proposed date for the start of the hybrid plan. Will the students continue remotely? Or is there another location being considered to teach in or some other option? When the work is complete, can parents be included in any planned walkthroughs before the school opens? Ms. McGee, I'm going to assume that you were at our meeting this morning because we met with all the administrators and we talked about this very topic. I mean, basically word from word of what you're asking. So we know that if the work at Bailey is not complete by August, I'm going to say October 2nd, which is the Friday before, we are not going to use that building. And we're still going to use our hybrid model for grades pre-K through 6. And what we're going to do is basically spread our children out appropriately. We recognize that the survey that we issued to our families indicate that a little less than half of our families have opted to send their children in for hybrid, which means that we will probably have some more space to house our students throughout the campus. And now, because we're going to cohort the students, that now cuts that population in half, giving us a little bit of flexibility to stretch the students out if need be. We're looking at a variety of models right now where we'll be using the space at Lee F. Jackson, Highview, Woodlands Middle High School if Bailey cannot be used or if the ECP program cannot be used. But we are currently looking at it to make sure that in those spaces, we can employ the social distancing guidelines that are set by CDC, Department of Health, and NYSED, and as well as provide the appropriate instructional spaces for students, right? Because that's really important that we have appropriate instructional spaces for students. I just don't want to put kids in places just to say my kids are in a building, but we want to put children in places where teachers can teach appropriately and children can learn appropriately. Question 5, regarding some other facility related plans, if not decided already, when will the board decide on the final design of the vestibule at Woodlands, and when will that work be started? When will the Morton House be taken down, and by whom? So once a decision is made on the design, we will have the architect move forward with any plans and specs that need to be submitted and approved by the New York State Education Department. And so we would anticipate that it would take probably up to a year before we can actually break ground. So for your information, as it relates to the Morton House, a bid has been reissued, dated tomorrow, to allow for a walkthrough of, no, I'm sorry, I'm speaking about something else. No, this is of the vestibule. The bid has been reissued. It was dated for tomorrow to allow for a walkthrough of all interested parties, and the walkthroughs are scheduled for September 22nd. So the due date for submission is 9/25. It's anticipated that the board can act on rewarding the bid at the October meeting. Again, there's still conversations about the Morton House and how that house is going to be demolished, even though the board did vote to have it demolished, or if there's going to be another plan for that. So number 6 and number 7 looks
Dr.
like.
Chase, I'm sorry. Could you say that last part one more time? I missed part of what you said about the board.
I really don't remember what I said. I was in a zone.
Okay.
I don't remember what I said. Sorry. I was talking about the Morton House. I don't remember. I know I said something about the Morton House. You know, we're still in conversations as to how that facility will be demolished, or if it's going to be used for another type of use. So number 6, in what setting will the development of the 5-year plan for facilities that Mr. Warner referenced in the work session take place? In facility committee meetings or special board meetings or elsewhere, or when this process will begin? That process actually starts with the committee, and the committee then advises the full board, and then decisions can be made appropriately. But again, that process begins with the committee. Katie, I think this is a question. It's a question and a statement. So thank you for posting the EnviroScience report on the air conditions at the mansion on both the board page and the facility page on the GCSD website. Will you also post the 812 report written by EnviroScience regarding the asbestos at RJ Bailey? I believe that report is already posted. Mary, can you confirm or tell me if it's not posted? But I thought I saw that report already posted. I'll verify that, Ms. McGee, and I will get back to you on that one. There's one other question from Ms. McGee, which I think is more appropriate for the board, and that's the question that is before her first question.
Antoinette, I have my hand up. Antoinette, you're muted.
Yes, give me a second, Terry. I'm just gonna finish so we can finish with Ms. McGee. I think we actually spoke about this earlier in our meeting. Essentially, in regards to discussions, in regards to selecting the search firm and discussing the search for qualification, that those items that takes place in executive session, and the interviews of them will also take place in executive session, and any final decisions that does take place in open in the public with a vote. That was it for me. Terry, you said you had a question?
Kind of combination question statement. So per Dr. Chase's answer regarding the Morton House, I would just like to remind the board that the board voted to demolish the Morton House. There are rules about rescinding actions, board actions that we've taken. As we've learned tonight, suffice to say, those steps have not been taken, and that is not permitted as we were talking tonight. So the Morton House is being demolished. There is no other use under consideration, despite what rumors may be flying around or suggestions. As we know, we cannot easily rescind this, certainly not by the mere suggestion of it, as we learned tonight.
Thank you. Terry Tracy.
I just had a question about when Dr. Chase was answering one of Katie's questions. Dr. Chase, you said that you guys earlier today talked about how if certain buildings aren't ready, then pre-K 6 would be put back in the buildings and we would spread the students out appropriately. Can you expand on that? Like, what exactly does that mean for 7 through 12? Where would pre-K 6 be? What was discussed or decided?
So there was no decision made. Discussion was just a bunch of ideas that we're not ready to make public yet because it's ideas and there are a lot of different scenarios that we're looking at. So we have to be careful with telling people this is what we're going to do and then have to change it. But there were ideas based on a variety of scenarios. So if in fact that Bailey is not appropriate to open, or if ECP isn't appropriate to open, we're in the process of making plans as to where those students will be. And we feel that, you know, we'll be able to house them appropriately. 7 through 12, you know, we're looking at what those online options might be for those students. But again, putting it out in the universe prematurely doesn't serve us well right now, but it's just ideas. And we just want to be ready for a variety of scenarios whenever they may occur.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, that is the end of public comments. We are now going to move into policy presentation. We have 3 here. We have administration of the budget, school safety plans, and alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and other substances. And in parentheses, it has staff there. All right, so we have policy amendments to be considered for board adoption. This is at our October 2020 meeting concerning administration of the budget and alcohol, tobacco, and other substances. The school safety plan policy was scheduled to be adopted this evening, but we had some additional revisions were made to it. So we are presenting again tonight for board adoption on October 2020. Copies of these policies will be available in the district clerk's office and in school buildings upon our reopening, and will be available on our website. All comments concerning these policies should be submitted in writing to the board. All right, Dr. Chase, your superintendent's report.
Okay. So I just want to again welcome the public and welcome those who are watching us on YouTube. Thanks for hanging in there. I know these days are quite long for all of us, and so I just thank you all for your support and your patience. Before I actually begin the superintendent's report, I do know that all of you were informed of the passing of one of our beloved staff members. On Saturday, I learned that Miss Jenny Elber passed away. And on Monday, I want to just say that on Sunday, the staff at RJ Bailey was informed. Jenny Elber is a teacher. She is a speech teacher at RJ Bailey Elementary School. She entered our school district in 2011, and she has made such an impact on all of our students. She just didn't work with students who required related services, but she worked with all students. And what I've learned about Jenny is that Jenny worked with students. She worked with staff members, students or children who may have had some concerns. She went above and beyond for anyone who required her assistance and her help. One of the things I said to the staff on Monday is, remember, what would Jenny do when we're faced with challenges and when we're faced with having the ability to help someone or to be in a position to help someone? What would Jenny do? And I believe that's a great way in which we can honor the legacy that she has left behind. So I do ask the community to please, and the board to please join me in a moment of silence for our own Jenny Elber, a champion for the children of Greenburgh Central School District. Please. Thank you. I want to again offer my condolences to the RJ Bailey Elementary School family, to those who are left to mourn Jenny Elber, and especially to Jenny's family. She has definitely left her mark at Greenburgh Central School District, and she will not be forgotten. There were quite a few questions tonight that asked about the opening of our school and the status of where we are. The administrators and I, especially my cabinet who are here on the Zoom call, we've been very busy in planning what that model might look like. I want to thank our families for filling out that survey, and submitting the survey was very helpful to make some informed, decisions about the direction we need to go. I do want to just re-emphasize and underscore again, when we're talking about the reopening of schools, I want you to know that, my cabinet and I, as well as all the administrators, want for Greenburgh Central School District students as we would want for our own children. We are taking every measure to make sure that our schools will be up to par, will be appropriate for the opening. It is no surprise that we do have ventilation concerns at some areas. We've talked about that, and I hope that we were as open and transparent as we could possibly be with you. I did share with you at another meeting, and I believe when EnviroScience was here and they talked about the concerns that exist at the mansion, I know I said to the families, and I said it a week before, I will not open the buildings unless I am comfortable. I also said that I would like EnviroScience to come in to do a full air study before we open the buildings. And I want to share with the families that we are pandemic ready to receive our children. I'm not going to say to you before the pandemic that, the kids were in a position where, they could get sicker in the building or anything to that effect. But since the pandemic, there were new measures that were put in place. And it is important that we meet those measures and even exceed them, because our children deserve the best. I'm not going to shortchange the children. I'm not going to put the kids in a situation, nor my staff, where it will come back to haunt us later. So we are taking all sorts of measures. We are examining where we are. Mike Falcone and his team have been working extremely hard. There's a couple of factors that go into play. Number one, we have to look at the positivity rate. Just yesterday, George Latimer held a press conference where he did say that that he is quite concerned about the positivity rate in Westchester, that it's higher in the past months and even more so in the past 2 weeks. We're monitoring that as we get closer to the October 5th date. We're also looking at Bailey Elementary School, we're looking at ECP, and we're looking at all of our other buildings. I outlined earlier during the question portion, the community comments and question portion, where we are at every building in terms of the work that we're doing. And I'm going to continue to communicate with our families the status and where we are. I also made a promise to the families, and I believe in living up to a promise. And I think our families are relying on the fact that the superintendent will live to her promise. I promised that I would give you all a virtual tour of the schools before we open them. And I will give you that virtual tour when we believe that the schools are ready to receive your children, the gymnasium, the workspaces, the office spaces, and we're going to do just that. But I will continue to communicate with you where the updates of where we are. I will continue to rely on our teachers in terms of what they are. We're going to be analyzing the data of teachers who might have health concerns that cannot come back and where those teachers are going to be. Mr. Warner at every meeting asked me, do we need additional staff? And we're looking at that. And we know that we do not have the luxury of hiring additional staff, like 100 different teachers. And so we have to make do with what we have. And we know that we have the right teachers to do the job of providing this hybrid model for our children. And so you'll hear a little bit more from me by the end of the week in terms of additional updates, because what I recognize is that not every parent is on this Zoom call and not every parent is listening. And we pride ourselves at communicating with our parents effectively, and that's not going to stop. So what I am saying this evening, you'll see in a memo to families so that all parents will know where we are in terms of a status update. And then we'll make some more informed decisions in the next couple of days so that we're all prepared. Families, again, I just thank you for your patience. I thank you for your understanding. I continue to ask for your patience. I continue to ask for your flexibility, and I definitely ask for your grace. I have no idea where we'll be in the next 2 weeks. but I do know that we're going to be working hard to try to open up our buildings. And if we're not able to open it up, I will let you know in a timely manner so that you can prepare for childcare. But it is our goal, and we do anticipate an opening October 5th, but not everyone. The goal is to open starting with the younger children first, so that we could solidify what it is the younger children need, and then starting and then sort of staggering the opening so that we're not bringing all the kids at one time. We want to make sure that we get this right, and we only have one opportunity to get this right. And so continue to be patient with us, and just know that every decision that we make is in the best interest of our children, our staff, and also for our families. That is all that I have this evening. I'm a little wiped out. So that's all I have for this evening, and I thank you for your attention. If there's any more, I will make sure that I put that in a memo to our families. And again, I thank our families for their support and for their understanding and knowing that we have their best children, the best interests of their children in mind. Thank you all, and good night. We will not have an assistant superintendent report this evening. Actually, Mary was supposed to do it with me, but I ended up stealing some of her thunder. We were actually going to do a joint one. So we will not have a separate assistant superintendent report unless, Mary, I missed out on something that I should have said now.
No, actually, you did not, Dr. Chase. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Chase. So you're saying Mary is not going to do her business report at all?
No, in the packet, I did tell you that the treasurer's report was not prepared as of yet. I did put that in the packet. Okay, so we don't have that information quite yet. Before I end my report, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, and I think it's important to note. I just want to thank our teachers, the Greenburgh Central School District teachers, for just doing the work on Friday and opening day. They did one heck of a job, and I could not be more proud. I want to thank our teachers for, even though we are all in a state of mourning right now in our school district, and I mean, it is district-wide, they are still doing the work, and they're still providing the attention that our students need and giving them what it is that they need to get the learning started. So I want to commend our teachers. I want to commend our administrators. I want to commend our support staff who has been coming in during the summer and are still in the buildings doing the business of the district so that we don't drop any plates. Again, we have a fantastic, well-oiled machine in our school district, and everyone really should be proud of the work that's happening. I want to commend the parents, because I'm understanding that there are some parents who actually took off on Friday and today so that they could work with their children at home, just to get their kids started with remote learning. I think that's a notable thing to do, and it just really speaks to the partnership that we have with our families. So those things can't go unnoticed, and I just want to thank you and let you know that we see you, we feel you, we hear you, and we are here for you. So I want to thank everyone. Good night.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chase. Okay. All right, we're moving on to approvals. Okay, this is for section C, instructional personnel items. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, section D, board action items. Is there a motion to approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry.
Discussion of the motion.
I was just about to say, is there discussion? Yes, David, go ahead.
So if you go back to the goals, which is I guess item I think it's D3.
Yes.
There are a couple of what I think are typos. If you go to focus area 2, the third bullet starts with stakeholders from diverse backgrounds.
Wait. You said area 2? 1,
Focus
2,
area
3.
2, expand stakeholder engagement.
Yep.
You got a set of bullets and they're supposed to all start with verbs. Okay, one, increase outreach, one is increase engagement. I think the last one should be ensure stakeholders. So I'd like to add the word ensure. And then down in focus area 5, so it'd be ensure stakeholders from diverse backgrounds participate, like that. Then in focus area 5, I think Ashley may have pointed this out before, fiscal stability and efficiency. There's an or that should be an of. The first sub bullet, update 5-year plan, update and implement our 5-year budget plan and determine the costs, benefits, and limits of our cost saving measures, not or our cost saving measures. So of our cost saving measures. Let's ensure stakeholders and of our cost saving measures. I propose we amend these, make these 2 amendments to the goals.
Okay.
Are we good with it?
Yes, I'm good with them.
Okay, so can we do it as amended?
Yes. All right. Is there a motion to approve the board action items as amended? Wait a minute.
So moved.
As amended to, okay, so let me finish. As amended to the items presented to the board for approval this evening. David, you said so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. All right, we're up to section E, finance items. Is there a motion to approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
All right. Okay, here in a second. Is there any discussion? Let me ask that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, section F, business items. Is there a motion to approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. All right. Okay, we are up to
Wait.
I'm sorry, so I heard somebody say something.
Isn't there one more
Ivy.
category?
Ivy?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you do the motion on pupil personnel services items.
Let's skip it. Let me go back. Yes, you're right. Apologies. Okay, section G, pupil personnel service items. Is there a motion to approve the pupil personnel service items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, the motion carries. All right.
Madam President,
Yes.
did we vote on the revisions in the meetings?
That's on H2. I know what she's talking about.
Okay, so did we vote on that, or is that in October?
It's coming up. She's about to do H now.
Yeah.
Closing items.
Okay, because in H there is is the 4-minute limit for the community is down to 2 minutes.
Hold on for a second. Let me get to it.
crossed out 4 and put 2 minutes in there.
Wait. Let me get page 2. All right, so we're gonna get to that. We're up to the closing items right now. We have first up the strategic plan.
I can't find it. I had it, but I can't find it now.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the paper copy of the agenda, right?
Oh, yeah, I have the agenda.
So, you can't, you're talking about the strategic plan. It was included. Okay, so we're on H1, strategic plan. David, I believe this was your item that you brought up.
Sure. So just to kind of review, what we have in our district is a strategic plan, and every 5 years we go back and renew what our high-level goals are. We review first our mission and our vision, our core beliefs about how we operate, and that's sort of like been phase 1 of what we do in the past, and we've traditionally handled that at a winter board meeting. And then after that, we have convened a group of a mixture of board members, administrators, teachers, parents, community members, and we all get together when we figure out what our focus areas are and what our goals are. And that usually happened in the spring. And then when we came down to what we thought our 5-year long-term goals would be, we would then adopt that. And then after that, over the course of the next 5 years, the board would come up with, like phase 3, year by year, what are our short-term goals for getting through each academic year? Okay, so we've been doing that since 2015, and now we've come around to the 5-year point at this time. The last time we did that, we had a consultant who was really good at. They were really good at what they did, and so for phase 1, there was a charge for them to just work with the board to come up with the vision, the mission, and the goals. The phase 2 was the more expensive, and the person ran the meetings and organized things so that we had these teams of groups of people figuring out what all our long-term goals were. And then phase 3, we had one more visit from the person who came and worked with us on our first-year goals. After that first year, we decided that the goals process was easy enough to where the board could just kind of handle it on its own, and we went forward from there. So now we've come up at the 5-year mark, and the question is, we've also cut back on our budget quite a bit on the board side. Do we need to go out for an RFP and get another consultant in here to deal with our 5-year point or not? And do we need the person for, looking at the mission and the vision, or do we just need the person to get together with a big group and do the goals? Do we need the person to do anything with our first-year goals thereafter? And so I want to take the temperature of the board, because that'll determine when and if we need to issue an RFP to get ready for this thing. If anybody remembers anybody's been around for the last 5 years and wants to opine on what they think we should do, go ahead. I have my opinion, which is that probably year-by-year goals we've been doing fine on our own. I think that the process of going over the mission and vision, it's just the board doing it. So I don't think we need somebody to do that. But when we get to the point at which we need to get those large groups together and keep everybody moving in sync to where we end up with our 5-year goals, I think we probably need a consultant for that. That's my opinion. What do other people think?
Terry's hand is up.
Thank you. Hey, Dave, you pretty much summed it up pretty well. Certainly the professional was very helpful and essential, and I endorse the process that you just laid out.
Okay, so then what normally happens is that the winter retreat is when we go over our mission and goals again. So whenever you plan that, that's usually around January, you do that. Then we adopt any changes to that. Then in the spring, we're going to need to have the RFP and find the consultant. So are we good with that?
David, oh, yes, I'm muted. I noticed that with those, the strategic goals that you, I think you shared, and I was able to find it, I believe, in our board.
Yes, you did.
As well. They seem to be very much really aligned with what our goals had been, for the last few years, right?
They should be.
They should be. So I guess let me just clarify. So you're saying the first two things you think that we can sort of do on our own is the mission and vision.
Yes, mission, vision, core beliefs, we can do on our own.
Yeah, we got that. We can do it on our own. But when it comes to those strategic goals, the focus, that's where we pull in the community.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess, do you want a decision, you want some action now, or can it be something that, since this is something we would sort of spark again at our, I hate calling them retreats because we wind up not doing retreat. We don't do retreat. We wind up taking care of business, so we address it.
At our winter special meeting, we go out and we figure out what we're going to do for our mission and vision and core beliefs, and then we figure out what we're going to put in our RFP. Yeah. Do it all then and move forward then. And we don't have to take any action until that point.
That's what I say.
Are we good?
Anybody else's thoughts?
I agree with David.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
All right. All right. Now, okay.
Excuse me, Madam President. I asked a question that was never answered. I don't know how David jumped in over me, but it was okay. I wasn't upset about it and nothing.
No, David, the reason why, because David's, what you're referring to is on our closing items. The strategic plan was just first. Now we're getting ready to go into to the board policy.
H2, yeah.
H2. So we're up to that now.
Okay.
All right.
I can speak now.
Yeah. Obviously you read it. So there was an amendment.
So can I explain too?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to discuss. There's policy 1410 and then there's 1510. So if you want to go in the order of the agenda,
yeah,
maybe you should first have a discussion on 1410 if there is any discussion to be had. And then I can answer Cora's question about 1510 because I'm the one who is proposing those changes.
Yeah. Okay, so 1410, pretty much, if everybody sees it, I'll read it. It's pursuant to policy 1410, the board hereby suspends policy number 1410 regarding policy formulation and adoption for this evening purpose for voting on one policy amendment, which is policy 1510.
Got it. Okay.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so well, first of all, I wanted to tell our public, I'm actually not watching the YouTube channel, so I don't know how many people are with us at this point, but this Board of Education has a policy, policy 1510. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to toggle back and forth across my various apps here. So this is a policy that's it's entitled Regular Board Meetings and Rules. And a part of that policy is actually about public participation at meetings. So just to sum it up quickly, currently the board, so first of all, no Board of Education is obligated to allow public comment, but this board does, and does so very generously. And so the relevant part of the old policy 1510 as it pertains to public participation is that speakers will be permitted to speak for no longer than 4 minutes. Work session speakers may comment on matters related to any agenda item. The Board of Education will not permit in public session comments involving individual district personnel or students. And then it goes on to talk about general behavior, civic behavior during these public comments.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this changing of the 4 minutes to 2 minutes.
I know.
Miss
So
Terry, just hold on for a second,
just hold on
please.
a second. So
I'll hold on.
since we have,
Round robin. I just want to know why.
Miss Carey,
I'm
she's
about
just
to
talking
explain
about
it.
the
So-
changes, so if you could hold on, please. Go ahead,
so
Tanya.
we have had recently many emails from the public and many requests from the public to be allowed to speak in Zoom meetings rather than have questions read as we have been doing. So for that purpose, I proposed amending this policy that would allow the public to speak during our Zoom sessions. And the relevant changes, which are in red, I mean for the board are the following. When board meetings are held via Zoom or another online platform, requests must be submitted to the district clerk by email and no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting. And that's simply for logistic reasons and not to prevent anyone from speaking. Requests to speak shall always include the name of the speaker, the address, telephone number, name of organization, brief description of the topic, etc. That is something that is already in our old policy. Requests to speak will be honored on a first come, first served basis. Speakers will be permitted to speak for no longer than 2 minutes, and the entirety of the public comment session will not exceed 1 hour, equivalent to a maximum of 30 speakers. So, Cora, the reason that I changed it to 2 minutes was simply to allow more people to speak, because it seems that we have a lot of requests, and it's just a way of allowing more public comment, especially during these Zoom sessions. Now, I suppose, if there are only 3 people who want to speak, maybe we could say that then they could speak for longer, but this was simply just a way to make it actually more open and more democratic. That's why I suggested the 2 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me just finish the other changes, and then obviously anyone can comment. So the other thing is that I just reiterated basically the rules from the previous 1510 policy, which are as follows. Work session speakers may comment only on matters related to agenda items that are being discussed in public session. Regular meeting speakers may comment on any issue pertaining to the district, with the exception of individual personnel or students. That's pretty much always been the case. And during special meetings of the board, speakers will be allowed to comment only on agenda items that are being discussed in public session. And then the rest of the policy is as it was, basically. So that's all I had to say.
All right, Ms. Carey.
Listen, we worked long and hard to get that 4 minutes, because it was 5 minutes at one point, and they dropped it down to 4 minutes. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm totally against dropping it down to 2 minutes. But if evidently some of the community members feel they need to have a drop to 2 minutes so that they can speak, knowing that they're not going to get everything they want to say out in 2 minutes, is fine with me. But it's just that we worked very hard to get that 4 minutes, and I just couldn't understand why that had been dropped to 2 minutes. And then on top of that, you can't change it. If we have 3 people or 23 people, the time has to remain the same, because it will be brought back up in our face that we let so-and-so and so-and-so talk, even though they won't agree with them. So we have to maintain that 2 minutes for everybody, whether it's 3 people or 23 people. So I just want to make my thoughts known as one woman's opinion.
I mean, does anyone else want to weigh in? I mean, do you prefer 4 minutes, 2 minutes? I mean, I just thought
I
that
have
2
my
minutes
hand
is.
up.
Hold on, Terry.
I'm sorry,
Tanya,
I didn't see it.
no,
I'm sorry.
Tanya, just hold on. Let's
Sorry.
let
Okay.
Terry had his hand, and then I think I saw David's after.
Thank you, Antoinette. So I'm troubled by this on a number of levels. So basically, with the part about 1410, you're suspending the rules as how we do policy, which is problematic for me because we didn't even get any heads up on this. This wasn't in our packet. You know, I'll use David's thing with regard to the strategic plan. He sent out an email about a week or two ago, and then provided us with information. And it wasn't even and it didn't even change anything up, but it was almost a courtesy thing. So you're asking us to suspend the rules, which I have a problem with because, you know, we amend policies all the time. We have some on our agenda this week, and we always talk about the process, about the reading of it first and going through the full process. And so I don't understand why we would do this for this policy, especially without even having put it in our packet for the board to review, not even showing us all the respect to do that. The other thing, again, you know, David, I'm sorry to use you as an example, David. Obviously, your name was on it. You made some suggestions and changes, but you know your name was assigned to it. I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, well, where did this come from? Who was doing this? And again, I think it's just not a good process, and it's something we have never done. We have never done it this way. And if anything we've done pretty well is go through our policy process. And it's a bit laborious, but it's an important part of what we do. And that process has been important. Just to go through some of the specifics, I would disagree with Mrs. Carey. It may have been 5 minutes before I got here, but when I first got here on the board and moved to the community, it was actually 3 minutes, and we increased it to 4. And we increased it to 4 minutes. So that was my recollection. Excuse me.
Miss Carey, hold. Miss Carey, hold for a second. Let Terry finish. Thank you. Go ahead,
Thank you, Antoinette. And we increased it to 4 minutes, and we used to have a little round, you know, desk clock there. And I remember Miss Carey couldn't see the numbers, and she would complain about that. So we got the big clock with the big digital numbers, and I affectionately named that clock the Cora Carey clock, because, say that 5 times fast, because obviously it showed the public that we were being responsive to them. The other point that I would dispute as well, from going down to 2 minutes, and this is echoing what Ms. Carey said, I think, is that that doesn't give people more time to speak. When we had that 4-minute rule, 20 people came up, 20 people spoke for up to 4 minutes. You know, yeah, 2 minutes would get us out of meetings sooner, but to say that it's more democratic and allow more people to speak, not true, not true. We let everybody who signed up spoke, got their 4 minutes, regardless of the number. Sometimes we suspended the rules if it was a particularly important issue and we wanted to give everybody a chance to speak, and we knew it was going to go exceptionally long, but I can literally count on one hand the amount of times that we did that. So to say that this allows people more time to speak is not true. It's definitely not more democratic, and in my opinion, results in a kind of censorship. But the more important part here is that we are deviating from our policy procedure in a way that you know is not in keeping with how we do things, and it's been a process that has worked and continues to work. Thank you.
Okay, David. And then Ms. Carey, I'm gonna come back to you because I know you had something to say unless another board member has something to say.
I'd
Okay,
like
so-
4 minutes. In order to allow people to speak, you'd have to also delete the thing that says the comment session will not exceed 1 hour. That's the way to do it.
Wait, say that one more time, David.
If you keep 4 minutes, you can't hold the maximum time for public comments to 1 hour. Right? So I would leave it at 4 and then delete the entirety of the public comment session will not exceed 1 hour and cross that out. That's what I would do. I don't know how other people feel.
Okay, Ms. Carey, I'm gonna come back to you because it actually did put his hand up and he haven't had the opportunity to speak just yet.
Thank you. So I understand where the sentiment with this is coming from. We did talk about this during our governance committee last year, and we had thrown around a few ideas trying to find the happy medium. Obviously, that was all pre-COVID-19. None of us were expecting to be in this Zoom-related world that we live in now, but we are here. That said, I do feel that in the grand scheme of things right now, it's my opinion that I would rather have, folks have 2 minutes and have 30 people talking and giving us their feedback as opposed to, having, 10 people at 4 minutes. That's my opinion. Additionally, I think the spirit of this is, in my opinion, accelerating how quickly we can get this adopted so that we can have the community provide their input live, right? One of the common themes we've all seen in our emails is that our community at this point feels that they're not able to have live public comment, and they feel that there is some form of censorship in their opinion happening. So in my mind, if this is a way to amend our policy to accommodate that live comment to happen again in an expedited fashion, then I do support it. I do understand the position about this is, typically not how we've done policy in the past. But I will say, this is one of those situations where we kind of have to make an exception in my mind, because I much more value having the public have their ability to speak at this point on a live session as opposed to the way we've been doing it. If this is the only way to move it forward quickly and to get it done, I support it. Thank you.
You're muted.
Thank you, Ashley. Tracy, you go.
Was David? I thought someone had their hand up before me. Ashley, I'm glad you mentioned the governance committee because the few times that we did meet, this was a hot topic. And that started last year. And I am definitely a fan of leaving it at 4 minutes. However, I do realize that sometimes our public comment session goes too long. So my comment was actually going to be about the 1 hour medium. I know that the governance committee was yourself, me, Mr. Williams. I was very adamant that I wanted to keep 4 minutes. I think I even at one point was willing to discuss 2 minutes just to kind of come to a happy medium because other committee members were absolutely certain on no minutes for the public. So I'm happy that this came up again. I feel mixed. I feel like I don't want to give up on the 4 minutes at the same time being on Zoom. I think we have a much more community input, not input, but community participation. People are watching, people are involved. When in the in-person meetings, people aren't necessarily coming to the meetings like that, and they watch it on television, but we don't really know that people are engaged. So I do feel like we would probably have more speakers if we do it for a shorter period of time, but I don't want to give up the 4 minutes. So I'm kind of in the middle on that. What I do want to make sure that we have in there is a maximum amount of time. I do think that when we have meetings, sometimes they go very early to the wee hours of the morning, and that's never a good time to make these important decisions that we have to make. So if we were to cap it at 1 hour or whatever amount of time. I'm not, I'm not wed to 1 hour, but whatever amount of time we want to cap it on, I'm okay with that. I do know that also we obtained a lot of objective information from Ivy about how other districts do their public comment sessions. We looked at the governance committee. We looked at who does allow public comments, who doesn't, the amount of time that they have, recommendations from NISBA. And Ashley or Terry, you can remind me where the last point was that we left off in the governance committee, but I do believe we were looking at a time limit as far as amount of time that someone could speak. We were also looking at possible public comments twice during the meeting, once in the beginning and once toward the end. I do not remember all the details with that. I'm sorry. That was again before COVID. It seems like another lifetime ago, but we really got into the weeds with looking at objective data and trying to figure out what would work best in our district. So for 2 minutes or 4 minutes, I'm kind of on the fence with that right now. I have to think about it for a few more minutes and with regard to a limit, I definitely would want a limit on how long we will engage in public comments, just so that our meetings can still be done at a normal hour.
Okay, I think Ms. Carey wanted to add something.
Yeah, first of all, I think we should table it until we can really talk about it. That's number one. And number two, I'm glad to see that my colleague there has gotten so into the community, because at one point we were not so into having the community speak at all. So I'm so glad that we have the colleague has joined the group of wanting the community to have enough time to speak. I would say that we should table it. I have ideas. My ideas are simple. If you want to hear them, they're very short and to the point. I believe that we should keep the 4 minutes, and if we go over 20 people speaking, then we can have it in the bylaws where we can go down to 2 minutes for each person. But if we have under 20, then we can have the 4 minutes. If it's in the bylaws, it's law. But if we're just going to do it arbitrarily, it's not right. So I'm not for staying up, because I have been in board meetings, not on the board, but in board meetings that have lasted a very long time because many people wanted to talk. But my concern is for not giving people a chance to express themselves in a way in the way in which they feel they're comfortable. However, if we have to in some way compromise, then we need to sit down and talk about a way to compromise so that we'll all be happy, and so will the community.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Carey. Terry.
Thank you. I agree with Ms. Carey that we should table this, require some more discussion. I do think that my colleague misremembers the history because I've never limited speaking by the public as far as time is concerned. Only thing that I have spoken about is once you hit the 4 minute, you have to stop. I was on the board, and I hate to give Ivy any work to do, but I remember we voted on increasing the time. And if anybody doesn't believe this, perhaps Ivy can look it up for you and find out how I voted, because I know how I voted. I voted to increase it from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. I think my colleague misremembers because she takes when you disagree with her or don't agree with her, then it's a matter of disrespect and so forth and so on. So that's how I recall it. The other thing that I would say, my other colleague, Ms. Mayers, who said during the committee discussion, some of us, the three of us, meaning me, her, and Ashley, wanted 0 minutes. Ashley, I would take exception to that because I know I didn't want to change it from 4 minutes. I know we discussed perhaps limiting the total amount of time. And I also know we talked about perhaps having 2 periods. That part I do agree with Ms. Mears, but certainly I know I didn't say 0 minutes. I don't think you said it, Ashley, and Tracy claims to not have said it. So look, I don't want to belabor it. We can get into he said, she said, but I certainly think that my colleague also misremembers that somebody in our committee said 0 minutes, because it certainly wasn't me. You're muted, Tracy, but we don't have to have this discussion for everybody.
Antoinette, may I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Tanya.
Right. So I think that I just want to mirror what Ashley said earlier, that this whole proposal does come from this sentiment that, you know, from these emails that we have been getting from the community, and the fact that they really want to be given the opportunity to speak directly rather than having their questions read. And so for that reason, I think that I would prefer not to table it. And I don't know if maybe it's possible to just poll the board, see how many want. I suggested 2 minutes, but I'm not particularly wed to 2 minutes. I think it was just, I just thought that might allow more people to speak and still kind of keep the meeting to sort of to humane proportions. But we could put it to 4 minutes with a maximum of one hour, and kind of let the chips fall where they may. I don't know if you want to poll the board and see if we should switch it back, or I'm just afraid that if we table it, that's another 2 weeks, and we're in another meeting where, the public is frustrated because they can't, actually speak directly. So that's just my opinion.
Well, what's wrong with just having a statement stating that for this time, that it will be for 2 minutes?
Oh, wow, virtually.
Isn't there some way that it could be worded so that when we go back to actual face-to-face meetings, it can go back to the 4 minutes or something? I mean, I don't want to see the 4 minutes go. But,
No,
if the community wants it, it's fine. I mean, they're the ones that are going to be affected, not me.
Well, I think it could, of course, like it could be amended to say, like, while we are using a virtual platform, that we could possibly get to do it. I mean, my thought is, and Ivy has a pretty good memory too. I know that when I was on the governance team, I think it was Terry, me, and Claudia, I think, at the time. And we did present something to the board at a work session, because I remember we were in a mansion, in regards to, I believe it was 2 minutes that we presented that, moving it to 2 minutes for the work session. I think Eric was on the board too, and I think he tried to kind of meet the committee in the middle and then add a minute to it and turn it into 3. Ivy, if I'm getting it wrong, but that's sort of what I kind of remember how it was, but it wound up not passing at that time anyway. I think that in regards to virtual, like I think what people have to understand, when you open up virtual, right, it's different from having an in-person meeting. Even though in an in-person meeting, you could have 100 people showing up. But also in a virtual meeting, you're very likely that you could have that amount of people showing up, because for most people, it's more convenient. So again, I'm thinking about exactly what Tanya said, what Ashley said, as far as how do we ensure that we get the maximum amount of people in a certain time that still allows our meetings to be efficient. The other thing I want to say is, if anybody remember when we did have that meeting, where it was one of the meetings where we had a lot of our community members in the meeting, it was particularly, just as the FYI, pretty hard to find and track the board members, because we all weren't on, that first page. And I think Ashley might have had like technical or internet, or Wi-Fi issues, and he dropped off, and I didn't know that he dropped off of the meeting. So I think if we are virtual, I think maybe that is a compromise, where we're doing something just for a virtual platform, so we can have the maximum amount of people, but still being efficient and being able to go through our meetings efficiently. Terry, and then
Thank you.
we're gonna go.
Thank you. 2 points I want to make, and part of it is a point of clarification. So with regard, since Tanya brought up policy 1410 at the outset, I guess this is a legal question. Do we have to have some kind of formal vote to suspend the rule? I mean, we've been operating by these rules for X number of years, and now we're changing. So that's the first question I have. And then just to, and I don't remember who said this, but what the community, somebody's talking about what the community wants. And, you know, again, I like data. Since nobody has any data, we're all giving subjective answers. So my subjective answer is this: what the community wants is consistency. Yeah, they've been sending in a lot of requests to speak, but as they noted that maybe about a month or two ago, the community was allowed into the Zoom call.
At a special meeting.
Certain members of the community were allowed to speak and say all kinds of things that all of a sudden now they can't do it. And the board president said we're only doing that as a special meeting, not at regular meetings. Again, that's inconsistent because certainly we didn't determine as a board that that was the case. So long story short is what the community wants is consistency. And as I've said before, we've been consistently inconsistent. And this goes back beyond. This goes back, so this is not a criticism of the current president, but indeed, we've been consistently inconsistent for a while. So hopefully maybe this is the start to some consistency. But so I just go back to my first question about.
I think that's what Tanya's trying to do, make something that is consistent.
Well,
but
okay,
I think
I agree, but I didn't finish my point. So I guess to sum up my point, I would just say I would like to begin by getting some consistency by hearing what Carol has to say about how do we proceed since we're suspending the rules here.
We did that earlier in the year, but Carol, go ahead.
So I don't have open your policy with the Zoom. I haven't figured that out yet. But so I'd have to look at your policy on changing policies, your policy to amend policies. One of the things that I know we had suggested, and I don't know whether or not the board did it, I don't recall, was to suspend certain policies during this COVID period because they may not be in line with what you're doing during, the COVID period, especially with remote board meetings. So I would want to ask you a question back. Did you suspend certain policies already? We'll just ask Antoinette.
Yeah, I believe there was, I don't have the paper with us, but I believe there were some in regards to COVID, like the attendance. There were some items. We actually reviewed that. Dr. Reynolds, I think in
Ivy has her hand
July.
up.
I think Ivy.
I see Ivy's hand. I believe in July, but also Ivy, you also have information about the first part of it, 1410 as well, because we did that before.
I can offer a couple of things. One, with suspension of policy, the wording was generalized so that policies insofar as they conflicted with the governor's executive orders or state regulations during COVID, they would be suspended so that you can move forward with whatever governor's executive orders or new requirements from the state or other agencies. You can move forward without having to change policy. With respect to 1410, it states that unless the Board of Education votes by majority of 66% or more to waive the 1 month period. So you would need a supermajority if you wanted to, not just a simple majority, if you wanted to waive the provision and adopt this evening.
And Ivy, we did that, didn't we do this with the sexual harassment policy, or?
No,
it was another one?
recommended that the policy formulation be waived, but the board decided not to. You
Okay.
wanted to go through the process for that particular policy.
Okay, so it was brought up and we didn't. Okay. So Ivy, we have, I feel like we've talked about it enough. I'm sorry, Carol, did you want to come back or that?
So you have options here. So to the extent that you are operating virtual meetings, your policy on operating in-person meetings does not apply. If you want to allow your community to speak during these remote board meetings, you can do so, but it would be appropriate to have that in a policy or in a protocol or something that you all agree to, so that you can roll that out to the public in, as Terry said, in a consistent way. You want to make it clear from the beginning, this is how we're going to do this if you do it. Because even, it is likely that the governor will extend the deadline beyond October 4th. And even if he doesn't extend it, if things don't move well, I think Dr. Chase had said earlier that we're already starting to hear there's issues on Long Island. It may become in person and then go back to remote. So having a policy that deals with how do you hold remote board meetings in today's world is a good thing. It just can be, it can be a separate paragraph in your policy in 1510, in the event of a remote session, these are the rules. And you all will decide what those rules are.
Okay.
Ashley's hand.
All right, thank
up
you.
front.
Ashley?
Yeah, so I was just gonna, make reference to the fact that it looks like here on the agenda, we do state that if the board decided to adopt the draft policy tonight, that we would suspend 1410 for, it says here, the purpose of voting on one policy amendment, and then it specifically goes into the policy we're talking about now. So it sounds like we have the framework there. The question is, are we willing to do it? So I think we're at the point where we talked about this enough that we should probably get a consensus and determine if we're going to do this or not. And that's where I'm at.
Mr. Williams raised his hand again.
Terry.
Thank you. So my question is this. Since it is required that, do we have a resolution here?
Yes.
Okay, so since it's required that a resolution be put on the agenda 5 days, at least 5 days ahead of time, or no, that somebody sends this to, sends it to the president or the superintendent 5 days ahead of time. When was this sent in?
Tanya, I can't remember. When did you email?
I believe I emailed it to you last, I think it was Thursday morning.
Making a request to, for a policy change, right?
Yes, I can find the specific email.
Please, could you please send that email to all of us so that we know for sure that it is indeed done in a timely fashion per our.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Per 1510.
Sure.
Was I the only one that got it in my packet?
You're special.
You're special.
That you don't have to tell me that. God told me that when He kept me here this long. So
Yeah.
was I the only one that got it in my packet? Because I got this thing. And I thought everybody got it.
I didn't get it in my packet. I'm going to check again.
Ivy?
It's item H2.
She's referring to the attachment. The attachment was, she was provided that in her packet today.
Right, that's today.
Yeah, that's today.
We're talking about Friday's packet.
I wasn't a packet on Friday.
We didn't get a packet.
Okay, so I mean, even more to the point.
So shall I forward it to everyone right now, or?
what I want to know right now is how can we move forward with this? So like, are we going to, is
I don't see
anybody
anything.
willing to do something in regards to virtual? Tanya, how do you feel about it being like a virtual, specifically for virtual meetings, since we're living in this world now?
So, okay, wait, hold on a second. I'm trying to do a few things. So I just forwarded the email to everyone, which I had sent to you on the 9th of September. So that takes care of that part. Secondly, I was looking at the language, and basically, I mean, there is a sentence in there that says, when board meetings are held via Zoom or another online platform, requests must be submitted to the district clerk by email and no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting. So that differentiates the way that we would do it, were we in a live meeting when people can just kind of come in and sign up, right? So that's already very specific to the Zoom meetings, as I said, because of the logistics of setting it up. And then I think everything else is pretty much the same. And really the only sticking point seems to be whether it's, 2 or 4 minutes. So, I mean, if you want, I guess my suggestion would be to poll the board whether it's going to be 2 or 4. And then if it's 4, then you would have to take out the maximum of 30 speakers, because it says the entirety of the public comment session will not exceed 1 hour. So if you just, if we change it to 4 and strike the equivalent to a maximum of 30 speakers, it's basically pertains to, any of our meetings. I think it's generalizable with that first sentence where, it states that the only difference is that the Zooms have to be sent in advance. So, I mean, I don't know what Carol thinks of that, but it seems to me that it kind of addresses intrinsically the idea of a Zoom versus a virtual meeting, the only difference being the timing of the requests.
Madam President?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought I heard Carol say that we could put we could put an additional paragraph there that would, take care of it. I think that that's what we should do.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, I didn't really mean to make a big thing out of it. It's just that 4 minutes was something that we worked on for a long time. And I just didn't think it was right to cut it down to 2 minutes. But I have no problem if you're going to do it for like virtual meetings, because more people will tune into a virtual meeting than will probably come out to a board meeting, unless, it's something important they want to talk about. But, I just think we can get this over within a few seconds if we just make a decision as to putting a new paragraph.
I think so. I mean, I think adding the paragraph to it for virtual, or adding to what's already there, I think that would be helpful. At least that gives us something that feels like might have support, and we can at least, vote on it and see, where it goes.
So can I just ask you, would you like me to draft a new one with a paragraph that specifically addresses Zoom meetings? And then could you still go ahead and just poll the board on whether it's going to be 2 or 4 minutes, so that we don't have to go through this discussion again the next time?
Yeah. Yes. So I guess we're, Ashley, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking here, and if we don't do something about it tonight, we're talking about our next meeting in October.
Right.
Again, there's no public comment. And again, the public's going to feel like they were being, censored in some shape or form.
Right.
I would rather we not sit here and let another meeting go by with this issue. If we can just quickly draft it up right now, I mean, it's a simple request, right? It's just adding a paragraph to our existing policy. It sounds like that's what more or less we're asking for, that specifically addresses the online meetings. I think if we could do that in a few minutes, it'll only take a few minutes to type it up. And then if we can poll the board and see if we have the majority, the super majority needed even to do the 1410, then we'll know if we can do anything or not at this point.
Do you want me to write the paragraph, or do you want Carol to do it, or does someone else want to do it? I mean, it's.
No, you've been doing it.
Yeah, I think you should put it together.
So you just want me to send out the new paragraph only. So is it going to be 2 or 4 minutes?
The new paragraph I thought was going to be 2 minutes. That's for the virtual, right?
I think
for the virtual, you want 2 minutes. Okay, fair enough. All right.
No,
so,
No, I do think we should, yeah. Is it possible to just poll the board on the key issues, which are 2 minutes or 4 minutes? What was the second one? 1 hour or not? Is it possible to just get that feedback from everybody?
Yeah. How many minutes? I don't even know if 3 is a medium, but if people can say what they're comfortable with in regards to minutes for virtual comments. David.
4.
Ashley.
I'm gonna go with the 2 minutes and the maximum of an hour. That way we can get up to 30 people in an online meeting.
All right, David, let me go back to you. Did you have a maximum?
No.
Okay. Tracy.
I think 4 minutes with the maximum of 1 hour.
Oh God.
Here. All right. Terry.
Could you repeat the question, please?
As far as time, how many minutes, and if you had a maximum of that time for virtual only?
So there are 2 separate questions you're asking. They're not combined, right?
Right.
Right. Okay, so maximum the time is 4 minutes, and total time limit is an hour. Ashley, did I hear you say that if we have a time limit of an hour, then you would, who had that? I think it was Ms. Carey's idea. If there's a time limit, if there's an aggregate time, then the per speaker time drops down to 2 minutes. Did somebody say that?
Yeah,
I said that.
Ms. Carey said that.
So my answer to your question, Antoinette, is 4 minutes, and if we go with an aggregate time, 2 minutes per speaker.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you said 4 minutes, but if it's
I see the confusion I'm causing here. Okay, 4 minutes total.
Yeah.
4 minutes total, or an aggregate of. I'd only want to drop down, and I think maybe Ashley said this. I'd only want to drop down to 2 minutes if we had a certain number of speakers. Did you say that, Ashley?
Yeah. The math is if you give 2 minutes per person and you do an hour, then you get 30 people in potentially.
Right.
4 minutes, it's only 15. So are you saying that if 20 people
Right.
sign up to speak, then you want to go back down in 2 minutes?
Yes. So I'm saying if it's less than 20 people, 4 minutes each. If it's 20 people, 2 minutes per speaker.
less than 20 people, 4 minutes, 20 or more, 2 minutes. And this is all still for an hour.
That
All right.
can't be, the math
No.
isn't right.
I'm
No.
sorry.
I don't have a time. I don't have a time.
Okay, so
asked-
you don't have a time frame.
So
Okay,
no
No
hour.
time frame. Yeah, no time
all right.
frame.
That's fine, Terry. Tracy, I just want to make sure I had you right. You had 4 minutes, 1 hour.
I do.
Okay.
So 4 minutes, 1 hour, that's 15 speakers max. I'm
Yep.
just saying, okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Miss Carrie, what do you have?
You asked for virtual only, right?
We only
Yeah.
talk about virtual.
That would be 2 minutes and 1 hour.
1 hour. Tanya,
I kind of am agreeing with Terry's calculation. I just think it's going to become a complete mess. So I think I would just go with the 2 minutes, no longer than 1 hour for virtual. But if we only have 3 speakers or something, then,
I
But
mean,
I think
that's happened before, like in, I think it was a special meeting during last school year that we had I think it was, I forgot what the ultimate time frame was, but we had 2 minutes because it was a hot topic. We wanted to get as much people in.
I have an
And-
idea. I'm sorry, I have an idea. If you want to honor the 4 minutes, we could say 4 minutes. And if we exceed 15 speakers, then we will cut the time down to no less than 2 minutes for a maximum of 30. No, okay.
No, I don't. I
Okay.
think we're good. So you said 2
2 minutes,
minutes,
1 hour
1
max.
hour.
Yeah.
I'm saying 2 minutes, 1 hour max. So that gives us 1, 2, 3. There's 4 with 2 minutes, 1 hour max for virtual only.
Right.
Right.
So this is now a separate paragraph. I can send the email to everyone. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just confirm, because we're saying virtual only, when we do end up back in person, and hopefully this will happen soon, we are going right back to our usual 4 minutes.
Correct,
Yes,
because this is
for
now a
virtual
separate.
only.
Yes.
No one's gonna propose, no one's gonna say, well, 2 minutes worked, let's stay at 2 minutes.
Anybody has the right to
Okay.
because they can say, hey, that was virtual. Now I'd like to propose a new amendment. Somebody could say that. It just would probably be voted down.
Okay.
We just leave it in the policy. Leave the 4
Yeah,
minutes in the
like-
regular policy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's staying in there.
Right?
That's not
Okay.
leaving.
You
No,
don't
that's not-
delete it. And then we have a separate sentence that she proposed.
Right. So I just sent all of you this very short paragraph now, which pertains only to online meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now, Ivy, if I'm correct, now we're seeing if we have the supermajority for suspending policy 1410. Tracy.
I'm sorry, before we go to the supermajority, which I thought we did have to have, so I agree. I just want to be clear on the revision. Are we still requesting, hold on, let me open up the policy. Are we still requesting, like when you're in person, you have to write down like your name, you're supposed to
Yes,
write your
yes,
address and the topic, but that doesn't
Yep.
always.
Yes, that's
Okay.
still the same.
Do we
Yes.
need to put that in this paragraph or no?
You can simply say, that all of the rules will apply except that in the
Okay.
event of a virtual meeting, the following will be in
Process.
effect.
Yeah.
Being that it's virtual, do we require or request that people be visual or no? Because we do have an option to call in for Zoom.
No.
Some districts
Okay.
do that, but I don't think we're doing that.
Okay. And lastly, are we going to do the same thing with the timer? I guess, Ivy, you'll have the clock or whatever, so people can see their time, so they'll know, when their time is running out.
Look at Ivy's
Ivy's
like,
looking at you. She's looking. You're
Are you
muted.
okay with that, Ivy? Oh, I lost her. Oh.
No, because I went to hit unmute and I ended up ending my video. So that timer, I don't think that I have enough connections in my spare room to hook that up. But I'll come up with something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you,
just,
Amy.
you know, because when people are talking, they don't always realize how much time is gone and they may want to hit certain points. So I
But
think it's helpful.
in order for me to let you see it, I won't be able to see it.
Right.
If I'm turning it around, so somebody else has to keep an eye on the time to let me know that it's, otherwise I'm going to be in front of it, like looking to see how much time is left.
Well, no, you look at your own reflection with a virtual desk clock in the corner. So you can see yourself, right?
Okay.
So I added another sentence. I'm going to re-email this. Carol, could you just tell me if this is okay? All other rules apply to virtual meetings as for in-person meetings. Is that okay?
What?
Why don't you read the whole thing?
Okay, let me read the
From the
whole thing.
beginning.
Okay. When board meetings are held via Zoom or another online platform, requests must be submitted to the district clerk by email no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting. Requests to speak will be honored on a first come, first served basis. Speakers will be permitted to speak for no longer than 2 minutes, and the entirety of the public comment session will not exceed 1 hour. For online meetings, only registered speakers will be allowed into the session for the duration of their comments. All other rules apply to virtual meetings as for in-person meetings.
I would say as are set forth in this policy.
As are set forth in this policy for in-person.
Just period.
Just period, okay. In this policy. Got it.
You're not deleting the 4 minutes from the other part of the policy, right?
No, this just now gets inserted into the policy 1510.
Okay. I saw Dr. Reynolds had his hand up.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that the timer issue is easy. Somebody can share their screen, an electronic timer can be put up, and this way everyone can see it at the same time.
Can you do that?
Okay, as long as I can still see the people, that's fine. Okay, yeah, that anybody, I guess anyone could do that. Okay. All right. So I think this piece is done here. We're going back to number 1410. So in regards to suspending, where is it at? Suspense policy number 1410. So if people can say where they're at, we know where we're at with the virtual portion of 1510 now for 1410. In agreement, or how do people feel about suspending the policy 1410 in order to approve policy amendment 1510? Let me start on this side. Ashley.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, we're literally doing what's written here, right? Be it resolved that pursuant to policy number 1410, the board hereby suspends policy number 1410 regarding policy formulation and adoption for this evening for the purpose of voting on one policy amendment, and then obviously it'll be the amendment of 1510. That's the question, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Terry, you're next on my screen.
No.
Okay. Who's next? Tracy.
So if we do not suspend policy 1410, then our next meeting, people would not be able to speak. Right. So then I say, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna maintain where we're at now.
So I say suspend it.
Okay. Let me see, Tanya.
Yeah.
Okay. David.
Yes.
Miss Carrie.
Yes.
Me, yes. Okay. All right, so we are suspending this. And so Ivy, when I read this item, I'm reading both be it resolved, rest, right? Where's Ivy? Okay. So be it resolved that pursuant to policy number 1410, the board hereby suspends policy number 1410 regarding policy formulation and adoption for this evening for the purpose of voting on one policy amendment, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves policy 1510, regular board meetings and rules, form and parliamentary procedure as amended, effective immediately. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Poll the board, please.
You need a
I'm
motion.
sorry,
and a
go
second.
ahead, I'm sorry.
You need a
the
motion
motion
and a
first.
second.
Yes, is there a motion to adopt this policy?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Can we have discussion?
we just had this, I feel like we just had discussion for like 20 to 30 minutes, no discussion, we're just voting.
Excuse me, Carol,
Ivy?
am I allowed to have discussion?
A board member can request discussion.
You can
Thank you.
request it. Am I allowed to say that we've had discussion? Do I have to, I mean, what am I allowed? What is the board president allowed?
If there's a request for discussion, you would hear what that was. I mean, you can
Okay.
certainly put a, as you are, you're saying that there has been discussion, so perhaps it could be limited, or if there's new discussion.
Okay, all right, Terry, what's your discussion?
Sure. So,
Thank you, Carol.
thank you, Carol. We went back and forth on this, as Antoinette probably accurately said, for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were doing this on the fly, which is what's really scary to me. Certainly makes sense to obviously have our community be able to express themselves as they have been in the past. I would say that we could have done that because we did it already, because we've been inconsistent, but that's neither here nor there. But what makes me nervous is that we're doing this on the fly, we're making these things as we go along, and then we'll find out later that, oh, we didn't do something quite right. Whereas we could table this, have all of the clarifications made, and then have it ready to go at the next meeting. So my only concern is that because we have rushed this through, whether it's a good idea or not, and quite frankly, it is a good idea. The concern is that we may have done something without giving it proper thought. And the final thing I'll say to this is, even though obviously we suspended the rules by implementing 1410, policy changes always, when done the traditional way, has an element of constituent commentary. We leave it open for them to have their comments, and we're not doing that. And people, anybody who can look at the YouTube chat will note that people have comments on this, and they have effectively been kept out of the process because of the rush to do this. So that's all I had to say.
Oh, Tracy, go ahead.
So I can appreciate your comments. I did not feel like I was making a decision on the fly, because we've talked about this for more than 1 year in the governance committee. So for me, it's not really on the fly, but I can appreciate what you're saying in that we could be making this decision and then there's something else that needs to be added later, and instead of having to go back. So I'm actually thinking that maybe we could table it. and I don't usually change my decisions, but, and again, I don't feel like it's on the fly. I don't feel like I'm just making the decision today. It's not the first time I've seen it. Again, it's been in discussion for at least 2 years, I know, and I think you guys said even more so when other board members were on. But I definitely don't want to be missing a step in this process.
Already voted on it, Madam Chair.
No, we didn't.
I thought we voted on it already.
We voted to suspend this policy. We have, I believe, Carol said we needed a super majority. And so it's already been suspended.
Yes. Why are we still discussing tabling it?
David, if you, yeah.
I don't feel like I'm completely blindsided by this because it's come up so many times in the past that it's kind of old ground. So I don't feel terrible about it. I think if we get it wrong or we get some public input that says we need to change it further, we can go back to our regular process and make an additional change to it. Doing this tonight will facilitate other people being able to come in and make comments. And then we can take those comments and use our regular process. And if we need to do some cleanup, we'll do some cleanup. But at least we'll get people in so they can talk.
Okay, so.
Quick question. Just quick question. Does this vote also require a supermajority? Or is it just a regular majority? Okay.
The policy portion of it, the actual 1510?
The vote on 1510. Ivy has her.
Or Ivy. Where's Ivy? I can't see Ivy.
Ivy has her hand up.
Okay, so what the board did, you took consensus on the time frame, and you took consensus on whether you wanted to suspend. What you read the resolution that would suspend 1410 and adopt the amendment to 1510.
Yes.
You had a motion and a second, and now you're in discussion. So you really haven't voted on the resolution that you read earlier.
Yeah. So, but we're doing that now. So what I'm asking you, I guess we're asking.
And it would require a supermajority, so you would need 66%. So that would be 5 board members.
For both pieces, right?
Yes, because it's one resolution. So you need 5 board members to vote in favor of it.
Okay, so we're back to that. Discussion is over. Just need to know where people are. Ivy, pull the board.
Okay. On the motion that was made by Mr. Warner, seconded by Dr. Dragic. Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Dr. Dragic?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Abstain.
Mr. Pineda?
Yes.
Ms. Mayers?
Yes.
Ms. Carey? I'm sorry, Ms. Carey, I can't hear you if you're saying something.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Ms. Darden Cintron?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, new business. Terry
Williams.
I just want to acknowledge to all people who are still watching and looking at our meeting that we received your petition. Obviously, we can't comment on it, but I would encourage you to stay involved. You said you had 600 names on that petition. Hopefully, those are 600 votes coming up in May when you recall the level of transparency that this board did or did not display.
I hope they all vote against you.
Is there any other closing items?
Sure.
David.
We agreed that we would talk about when we would schedule our walkthrough at this meeting.
Yes, go ahead,
So,
David.
when are we scheduling our walkthrough?
David, to clarify, you're talking about the building walk, the building
facility.
Correct. We annually have a building walkthrough. It's normally held in August prior to the opening of school. Obviously, the students have not returned in person. They're all remote right now, and we're working pretty hard to make sure that the air quality is good. So we want to look at, do our normal inspection, also look closely and carefully at progress on the air quality, and look at the social distancing piece. So we were looking for a date to do that. And there was a proposal that Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of this week would be okay with Mike Falcone. But the sticking point was that he wanted to do it in the morning or no later than noon. And I know the board president wasn't available before 3:30 p.m. and I don't know if other people are available either. There are a couple of other caveats. We're not at this point allowing the public to go into the buildings, so they can attend the meeting if we convene it in a parking lot, but they won't be able to go inside. We'll have to wear masks. We'll have to use hand sanitizer, that sort of thing. I don't think those requirements are terrible. There won't be a bus this year. You'll have to come in your own vehicle, and we'll try to maintain social distancing throughout the tour. So all that, I think we can probably live with. Question is, what time of day?
Ashley's hand is up, Angela.
Ashley.
So the one request I had made previously is that we ensure that we're taking the tour once the repairs that need to be made to the facilities have been done, so that we know that what we are seeing is the final result of what our children will be experiencing. I'm not aware of that having been completed. As a matter of fact, I thought I heard Dr. Chase earlier this evening said we're still waiting on some equipment that just came in to be installed. So I think that's going to be step one in determining our timeline of what is, at least for me, is once those repairs are completed, then we can talk about a date and time that the administration, Mr. Falcone, is available. And I would have the same concern as our board president. I probably will not be available earlier than 3:30 due to prior commitments.
I would also not be available before 3:30
AP.
and is due to work.
Mayor's ADC, not before 3:30.
And
Okay. And
I do agree with Ashley once the work is completed. That's my thought.
okay, so then since we're waiting on an estimate on Bailey, we need to come back and revisit this, and we can't decide tonight, pretty much?
That's my thought.
Okay.
Is there any other, I'm sorry, closing
I'm
items?
sorry. Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, we could
I'm
just.
sorry, Tanya.
Sorry, I'm sorry. We could schedule it for, like, I mean, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but like the 2nd of October, for example, knowing that we're opening on the 4th. By then, everything should be done. I mean, if you do want to schedule something now.
That's true.
I just want to I'm going to echo Mr. Panetta's sentiments. I think we'll just wait until things are installed, and then I will let the board know when things are installed, and you can plan accordingly, because those things can be delayed, and then that means you would have to change, your date again. And I don't have that crystal ball, and I don't have that estimate. So if we can just wait until things are installed, you will know because you all have the Google Sheets, and I'll keep you informed through the Friday packet. And then I think we can plan accordingly from there. And Ivy, I don't want to put anything else on your plate because you do so much above and beyond, but perhaps maybe Ivy will have a couple of dates and just poll the board and we'll take it from there.
And we're going to have the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting after we've had the walkthrough, correct?
I don't know those meeting dates. I'm assuming that would be a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're
I'm
welcome.
good.
Hearing nothing else, I just want to say one thing because I can't leave it out there because it was said. I just wanted to say that Terry's comment that he just said was out of order. So I just want to make sure that our community is aware of that as well. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All those
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any extensions? Motion carries. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you,
Good
Carol.
night.
Out before
Thank you,
midnight.
Carol.
Thank you, Laser. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Be well,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dr. Reynolds as well. Good night, everybody. Thank
Good
you,
night.
Ivy.
Good night.
Good night.